Welcome, everyone. My name is Lamont. I am one of the pastors at Grace Lutheran Church in Apple Valley. I'd like to say welcome to Grace, but as you can see, I'm not in Grace this evening. I'm actually up in what is a very messy study. So here I am, and I'm here because we're sort of experiencing deja vu all over again. We have predictions of some fairly severe weather that may be coming into the Twin Cities right about the time when we would be involved in our midweek worship, our Grace in the Middle, a time of worship and gathering. But we don't want to do that today because with severe storms possible, we don't want you to be out on the roads or out someplace away from safety of your homes if you don't need to be. And so we're going back to being on screen and being online. I'm grateful that you've joined us, and I pray that you will be safe through whatever the weather brings. Hopefully, what they're predicting doesn't get as bad as what they think it could, and all will be safe. But know that we're praying for you, thinking about you, and we really do want you to know that we appreciate you, and we want to find a way to come to you in spite of the fact that we're kept from being in the same spaces. So, that being said, it's kind of ironic, if I can kind of channel my inner Alanis Morissette, that we are talking tonight about the birth of Jesus. And the theme for tonight was set to be, was it really a silent night? Well, it might not be a real silent night tonight either for us. High winds and all of that, maybe some thunder. Can you believe it in December? Well, we don't know, but it may not be so silent of a night. So we're talking about Luke chapter 2. The verses are 8 through 20. It's a story that you already know. It's really the birth of Jesus, starting with the birth that gets announced. Jesus is born, and then there's an announcement out in the fields among the shepherds in the fields where they're keeping watch over their flocks. You know the story, and we kind of gloss over all the details of it. And we get here to this little stable, this shelter, this manger in Bethlehem. And we think, oh, everything's nice and quiet and wonderful. But that's the question. Was it really so silent? And so I just want to spend some time with that story. And rather than read the text and things right now, I want to weave it into the story. Let's think about this as a sort of once upon a time. Once upon a time, a child was born. A child was born like so many other children. It wasn't extraordinary. For somebody to come knocking on an innkeeper's door saying, my wife is pregnant and we have no place to stay. Do you have a room? And, maybe the innkeeper's not all that worried or impressed. So it's just another family, another baby. Yeah, I got a place out back. You're welcome to stay there. So when you get into this little stable, into this manger area, what do we find there? Well, what would you think was in a barn? Probably some cattle. A little bit of, they say the cattle are lowing, the moo, who knows what was going on. And then an occasional, how they just sort of breathe out all of a sudden, kind of clear things out. Probably just about the time Jesus was about to go to sleep, another one went right close to him. Oh, great. Now Jesus is going to be awake for another 20 minutes or an hour. I don't know. But animals aren't all that quiet. Even at night, they're moving around. I don't know, just think about even the fact that you might have dogs that are, sleeping in your bedroom or somewhere in your house. They're up, they walk around a little bit, they make noise. It was not a quiet time just gathering around there. And even think about just the birth itself. It's painful for Mary. Probably a little bit of, moaning, some screams, I don't know, but some hard pushing and all of that. And the babies usually don't come into this world and just sort of say, oh, this is great. No, that's not true. They get pushed out from a nice warm place into a relatively cold world where it's been dark for them before. It's not so dark anymore. Where it's been soft, it's I don't know, stickery hay and stuff in the manger, even through the blanket that he might have been wrapped in, these bands of cloth. And this wasn't exactly a pleasant place to be, and it wasn't exactly quiet. And besides, this manger was out behind the innkeeper's place, and it was full, right? So people are probably coming and going, grabbing their donkey or whatever it is. They're coming in and out through all times of the night, constantly interrupting this family. So maybe this wasn't such a silent night after all. But there are some meditative, silent, kind of amazing things happening. If you can think with me just for a moment, if you close your eyes and imagine holding a newborn baby in your arms. Some of you have done that, some of you haven't. And I admit and I know we talk about babies a lot at Christmas. God being born in a child, Emmanuel, God with us. And I know that for some to hear of children and birthing is a painful thing. It's hard. You've tried to have children for whatever reason you have not been able to. It's not been an easy thing. Don't get me wrong. When we talk about birthing and children, it isn't as though all people's value or worth is wrapped up in that. If you don't have children, if you don't know that experience, then there's something wrong. No, no. Don't understand, don't listen to that, don't hear that in that way, but hear it in this way, that in this particular gift of a child, in the gift of any child, is this special bonding that happens between the mother and the child in particular. And there are other ways that we bond and that we connect with one another, but in this particular time, think about the baby, that soft, fresh, smooth skin against skin. Listen for just a moment. Hear the little sighs as the baby does settle in, that kind of snuggle against you. It's an amazing thing. There is some silence, there is some wonder and mystery. How can this be? It is a miracle. Every birth, every child, it is a miracle, not to be taken for granted, right? And here in this one night, this baby comes. First, we can imagine Mary holding this baby in her arms. Once upon a time, a baby was born into this maybe not so silent place, into a noisy, cold, smelly kind of place in the world. And then suddenly there's an announcement of this birth that goes out, but not to the royals, not to the people in their palaces, not to the rich, and not to the even to the people in the inn, right, just close by, next door. No, not even there. But the announcement goes out into the wilderness, so to speak, out into the open spaces where the shepherds are keeping watch over their fields. These poor people who don't have a lot of standing. They're not looked down upon, but they don't have a lot of standing either. And interestingly enough, Luke tells us it's the shepherds who hear of the announcement of Jesus, right? And I don't know if you know this, but in the Roman Empire, which of course, remember, at this time when Jesus is born, Israel, Palestine is under Roman control. And there is lots of language in the Roman Imperium about how every king is the prince, is the shepherd, who cares for his people, and it's always his or him at that time. So there's this interesting switch that Luke wants to make. This king, this royal, this in the palace, the shepherd who is supposed to care about people and who doesn't usually, and who abuses power, etc. Instead, this little child is born and announced to the shepherds who care for their sheep in the field. And these are the ones who come and acknowledge this Jesus on that night. For them, they're sitting maybe somewhat quietly around a campfire, but it isn't quiet for long. Suddenly there is this angel and this bright light that appears. A messenger comes and announces this amazing birth. And they're thinking, so there's a baby born? Why is that good news? They listen to the message, and suddenly there is with this angel a heavenly choir, a multitude of angels singing. Man, this is not a silent night at all. It's disrupting everything. And so they go, these shepherds, and they hurry to find out what has happened. They go to see this for themselves. And now it certainly isn't quiet anymore in that stable, because now these shepherds are in there jostling around, and they're excitedly telling Mary and Joseph what they've just seen and heard. And Mary is just not sure what to make of it all. We're told she keeps all these things and ponders them in her heart. These things that people are telling her about this baby of hers, remembering the promise that a different messenger told her about who her child would be. This is not a quiet night. Hearts are not silent. They are stirred and excited. They are moved. People come running to see about this birth. The animals are up now, making even more noise. They are being jostled about in this tight space. This is a noisy time. It's into this that Jesus comes. This is now, in our time, now, once upon our time here, too. We are here again of this Jesus, this child born. A place where there are tens of thousands of children born in this one country every day. Around the world, it's a staggering number of children. What's one more child in a noisy, troubled, broken world? But there is something special about this child. An announcement has been made. Light has shone. Angels have sung. Shepherds have come. And now they wait to see if the announcement, the promises will come true. How will it be that this child born in this little out-of-the-way place in the midst of this noise and this disruption, how will this one be for us, for you, for me? How can it be that this one comes once upon a night just like this night, when there are perhaps predictions of storms, storms in the atmosphere, storms in politics, storms and upheaval in the world, refugees of climate and all the rest, storms are out there. Here in this night there is another announcement heard. There is a child born for you. The presence of God in this child that you can hold in the crook of your arm, to feel skin on skin, to smell the smell, to know that this child has come for you, for your sake, and for this child to be so vulnerable, to be so much in your care. For this child and this promise to be all that it is meant to be will mean disruption, some noise in your life that will draw you out of where you are into something that is going to happen, that's something that can be, that is not yet. You are the place, the heart, the life into which this child is born. Into the mess and noise of your life comes a child. A vulnerable child for whom you are invited to care and who will grow to care for you, who will be a shepherd for you, who will be a guide for you, who will take us through the noise and the disruption and the mess and the fear and the anxiety, and take us to the fullness of who we are meant to be. Will help to bring us to birth, the people of God, sharing the message of God, to become part of the messengers who go forth from this night, like those shepherds moving out into the society, into the culture, with a word that a child is born, a prince of peace, one who comes with healing on his wings. This one is born in you, for you are Bethlehem now. You are the birthplace. Your heart, your life is the birthplace of this child, come for you and for all. In Jesus' name, amen.